Your daily reminder that transphobes are hypocrites. Transgender men are iconic, and y'all can't keep up with them. Get some stem cells and put it in here, boo, because you need some more brain cells to compete with these guys. So Italy banned transgender women from competing in women's beauty pageants. I think that's like annoying. We're having all of these conversations about trans women in women's sports. And what people always say is that transgender women have an unfair advantage, right? I think in beauty pageants, which clearly favor conventional beauties, transgender people do not have an advantage. In fact, they have a disadvantage. Not only did the owner of Miss Italy say that you have to be born a woman to compete, this lady had the nerve to say that she was not going to jump on the glittery bandwagon of trans activism. That is a direct quote. Like, who do you think you are, girl? So, Federico Barbarossa, who is a trans man of Italian descent, organized such that 100 transgender men applied to be in this pageant. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Because you know what? Transgender men are biologically born women, and many of them are beautiful. Now, of course, they're not going to be allowed to compete. But what I want to hear is what exactly the pageant owners are going to say are the reasons that they can't compete. They're probably going to say because they're manly.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about the Miss Italy beauty pageant, which has made news because they've basically adhered to common sense in reality by banning biological men from competing against the biological women in the beauty pageant. Now, of course, the woke revolutionaries on the left have went into a full-blown meltdown crying hate and bigotry because this beauty pageant is basically adhering to reality, okay? They have a beauty pageant which has traditionally and historically been reserved for women to compete against each other. And now all of a sudden you have these, beauty pageants like Miss Universe that are allowing biological males to compete against biological women. And in some of these pageants, the biological males are winning, right? Which to me is sending the signal that men can be better women than women, right? Which I don't think is a great message to push, okay? So again, the owner of the Miss Italy pageant basically came out and said, look, we're not going along with this. We're banning biological men from competing against women in this competition. And of course, the left had a full-blown meltdown over this, okay? The activists got all upset, right? And now a bunch of trans men are storming the pageant by basically applying to be in the pageant in a form of protest that they believe is going to make some type of statement. But I don't really think that it's going to make the statement that they think that it makes, but we're going to talk about that. However, before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. The US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 70s, when the dollar was decoupled from gold. And the government seems bent on continuing that tradition. From now and up until the next election, the government has free reign to print as much money as they want. And the last time that this happened, everybody knows, everybody remembers, inflation went up 9%. This means one thing. The security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. Make sure you freeze the value of the wealth you're holding. Invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the one asset that is proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. Noble Gold is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. You will also get a 24 karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. Call Noble Gold Investments today at 877-646-5347 to get started, or go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind.
Now, where a whole bunch of transgender men are entering the Miss Italy pageant after a pageant rep said transgender women can't compete. All right, let me lay this out for you here. It's a little complicated. The organizer of the Miss Italy pageant said the pageant only allows people who were assigned a female gender at birth to be in the competition, meaning transgender women, men who became women, would be excluded. One transgender man named Federico saw this and thought, well, hey, I was born female, So he decided to enter the pageant under his birth name, Frederica, even though he identifies as a man now. That moment then turned into a movement. One LGBTQ group shared his entry on Facebook, encouraging other transgender men to apply, and now more than 100 trans men have entered the pageant, with some even being called to the next stage of the competition. Let's bring in Ali Arusi for more on this. Ali, what message does the trans community hope to be sending to pageant officials right now, and how is it being received?
Hey, Tom. Well, they're saying that these attitudes are outdated and the people trying to enforce them lack understanding. Federico Barbosa, the trans activist who entered the pageant and started this whole campaign that went viral, says that he thinks beauty pageants try to exclude trans women in part because they simply don't understand them or have a false idea of what it means to be trans. He said excluding trans women from beauty pageants or school sports sends the message that trans women are not women. And the result of that is transphobia. Let's take a listen to what Federico had to say.
They would never think that a trans person might even aspire to win a beauty pageant, because we're seen as this kind of three-headed monster. And I think a part of it is that so many people have never seen trans women or trans men or trans people in general.
But the patron of the Miss Italy beauty pageant, Patricia Mirigigliani, has not only defended the ban on transgender contestants, but also appeared to criticize other beauty pageants' efforts to welcome trans women. So it's a bit of a mess there, but nonetheless, it's all getting to a head with all these 100 men entering that competition.
So Italy just elected this far-right government, and that government has been hostile to gay and trans rights, to gay parents. So how is this protest being received among the broader population in Italy?
Well, I mean, look, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni denounced what she called gender ideology and the LGBT lobby during her campaign. Her government has barred same-sex parents from being listed on children's birth certificates, and they aren't if they're not biologically related. And she got elected, so her message resonated with many voters. Clearly, there's a divide in Italy on this issue. And of course, when government policies don't favor the LGBT community, it's easier for organizations not to make concessions or not to be inclusive. So it's become a very divisive issue. But as Barbarossa said, hopefully next time this will make them think better.
All right, Ali, thank you very much. Ali Arusi is in London.
Yeah, so again, I'm not sure exactly what the end goal is of this protest, because I don't think that it does what these people believe that it does. All it does is just back up what everybody's been saying, that biological men are men and biological women are women, and that's it, right? Because even if you're a trans man and you enter a beauty pageant that has banned trans women, you're allowed to enter because you are a biological woman, right? Which is literally proof and evidence that trans people are not banned, right? Again, it's just so funny. They think that this makes the point that is actually really not making. It's actually proving our point, because we've always said from the beginning, banning biological males from competing against biological females in sports or in any type of competition is not banning trans people. The fact that trans men can enter this beauty pageant right after trans women, aka biological males, were banned, proves exactly what we're telling you guys, that no, we're not banning trans folks. You can totally compete in these pageants if you're trans. It's just that you have to compete based off your biological sex, right? So yes, thank you for proving our point. Now, will any of these trans men actually win? Probably not, okay? And the reason why is because they're not feminine, right? I believe that beauty pageants, at least beauty pageants for women, they are basically, competitions of femininity, right? Beauty and femininity, right? I mean, what we define as traditional beauty for women. And a trans man, just by definition, in regards to the fact that they're trying to be men, they're trying to live their life as men, they're trying to be more masculine. Yeah, you're not really cut out to compete and win in a competition like that, because you're not trying to be feminine. Okay, now again, I'm not big into beauty pageants, so maybe, just maybe, I could be incorrect in regards to what they're actually looking for. in a beauty pageant, right? But I would think that most people who do watch beauty pageants want to see natural born women on stage, right? They probably don't want to see males, okay? And for the life of me, I don't understand why is it that we live in a world where women's rights is being pushed aside for the so-called rights of males who want to be women. I really don't get it, because beauty is one of these industries where women do dominate, and I think that that's the way it should be, right? Like, I don't want to see male strippers, right? I really don't see female strippers like that either, because I don't go to strip clubs like that. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to see men in areas where, again, it's traditionally reserved for women. Okay, when we're talking about beauty, I don't want to see male models, and stuff like that. I just don't want to see it. Personally, it's not my thing. Okay, I think that women should be allowed to dominate in beauty, just like men should be allowed to dominate in spaces that are reserved for men, because women can't easily go into a man's space and dominate. Okay, however, the vice versa seems to be true. At least that's what they're pushing for. They're pushing for men to be able to go into women's spaces, and as you can see in sports, right, and even in some of these beauty pageant competitions and some of these game shows like Jeopardy, men are simply better women than women, right? Okay, I'm just saying. That's what it seems like. So again, I'm trying to protect women here, right? And this is proof and evidence. What you're seeing, this protest, is actually proving the point that we've always been saying from the get-go, is that you're not being discriminated against. No trans people are being discriminated against. You simply compete based off your biological sex. And again, these people, probably don't have a chance of winning, but that's the way it should be. They shouldn't have a chance of winning because they're not being feminine, right? They are women, biological women, trying to be masculine, and that's not what they're looking for in a competition. Now, if you have such a big problem with it, and if there's so much support behind this stuff like they claim, then start your own pageant, right? Start your own beauty pageant where you can have transgender women or transgender men or whatever. If y'all want to compete against each other, do that. Do that. For the life of me, I don't understand why they just don't do it. Just have your own beauty pageant. But see, I actually do understand. I've been saying this and I'll continue to say it. It's because there's not that much support for it, right? Again, for as loud as these people are, okay, for as much as the mainstream liberal media gets behind this agenda, liberals can't claim they care about these people so much and their rights. There should be big money behind trans beauty pageants, right? There should be big money behind it, where they're having a pageant, they're able to, have their pageant, and, hey, they can compete, amongst themselves, and there should be plenty of people showing up and watching it, and it's something that should be supported, right? But again, the problem is that there's not that much support behind it. A lot of this stuff that comes from the left is empty virtue signaling. They'll come out and say they support, because saying is easy. It doesn't cost anything for you to come out here and say, I support this, right? And anybody who doesn't support it is a bigot. But it's another thing to actually put your money behind it. Liberals will not put their money behind actually, allowing trans people to compete amongst themselves and have their own platform, because they don't really actually support it. They don't support it. It's much easier for you to come out here and to say it than for you to actually put your money behind it. And until these people put their money behind it, then this is what you got to deal with, right? This person owns the pageant. They say, look, I want our contestants to compete based off biological sex, and you just got to deal with it. If you are so mad about it, start your own, right? Start your own and compete amongst yourselves, and that way you can be happy. But again, there clearly is no discrimination here, because trans people are allowed to compete. Again, they're not really sending the message that they think they're sending here, right? It's actually the opposite message of what they're actually, what they think they're sending. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.